Hey, what's up YouTube's abluegolfball here today with another Pokemon TCG video, and today I have for you guys a deck building overview. And yeah, this is going to be more about deck building as an abstraction, things to keep in mind as you build the deck. Not so much particulars or details, that's going to be in another video. Hopefully I'll have that soon for you guys as well. But this deck building overview video is going to be kind of things that I want you guys to consider, things to keep in mind, questions to ask yourself to be a better Pokemon TCG player. Now this video is going to be hopefully very helpful for you if you are a new Pokemon TCG player, or if you've been playing for a long time. Maybe there's some things in here that are new to you, maybe all the things in here are old to you, and I guess it's good for review. So hopefully, regardless of where you are in terms of your Pokemon TCG deck building career, maybe this video can help you out. So I have 5 areas of focus I want us to consider for building a deck. So when you build a deck, I want you to think about these 5 things. And the first one is education, or to educate. We have estimate, examine, experiment, and evaluate. And so coincidentally, all 5 of these start with the letter E. So hopefully that's easy to remember. And of course, we'll start off with educate. And I gotta say, there's just way too many things to know in the game. Way too many things. Of course, if you're a new Pokemon TCG player, you gotta learn the game, from scratch almost. But, just continue to educate yourself. Educating yourself goes a long way, and Pokemon TCG is no different. It's an ever-growing, ever-evolving game, and it's never ending to learn. It's good to learn. In every aspect of life, it's always good to continue to learn. And you stop learning when life isn't life anymore, really. And so never stop learning. The power of learning is great. And, in terms of things you want to learn, I want to ask a couple questions. And so here, the first question is, if you want to learn more about the game, keep up with the current rulings. You got to ask yourself, what are the current rulings in the current format or in TCG? Certain cards may have specific rulings and rule changes and different effects. So it's really good to keep in mind what the card does and what certain rules are happening in the current format. Of course, you want to know what the trends are, and so you want to know what your competition is going to be. You want to know, what local players are playing in real life. If you're playing in leagues and stuff in real life, you want to know what the trends are. You want to know what people are playing, and even online, you're going to notice there's going to be trends online. You're going to run into like the same deck 4 times in a row, and learn about these other decks. If you don't want to follow the crowd, of course, then don't follow the crowd, and see what you can do to break these trends. And so you gotta ask yourself, what are these trends? And see what you can do to handle them. And then, of course, educate yourself to understand what your format you're building this deck for, right? So when you're building a deck, is it for expanded? Is it for standard? And that means you got to learn what kind of library you have available to you, and what library you have available to your opponent as well. And of course, we have here, what are the current barriers in the metagame? And what I mean by barriers is you got to keep in mind and learn the metagame. In terms of barriers, there are certain cards in the expanded format, cards known as Suicune and Sigilyph here with the safeguard abilities. And so there's like barriers in that can cause trouble for you, and unless you're using the barriers, making trouble for Pokemon EX kind of decks. And in the standard format going forward in the 2015-2016 season, we have cards like Pyroar and Aegislash EX with Intimidating Mane and Mighty Shield, both kind of the prevent all yada 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 kind of cards, and they can cause headaches. And if you're using a deck that has a lot of special energies, and your opponent has an Aegislash EX, you're going to have to find either like Hex Maniac or something like that to get around those situations if you're using a lot of heavy special energies, or if you're going to have a backup with some basic energies. Right, with Pyroar, same kind of easy thing. You got to make sure, do you have evolutions, do you have megas or something that you can kind of get around Pyroar. And so, continue to learn the game, continue to educate yourself. Things that are current rulings, current trends, so you can better build your deck to match up with those things, understand your format, which format you're building your deck for, and what library is available to you within that format. So, and of course, the barriers in the game, hurdles or blockade, things that can cause you some trouble. And so we have estimate next, and here I want to pay attention to the things that you are gonna be investing in. So you gotta invest in certain things, and you gotta estimate how much you want to invest in it. So you gotta ask yourself, what's your budget? How much are you willing to invest in your deck? A lot of cards can be pretty expensive, and building a specific deck can be very costly, both online and in real life. You can spend real life currency to buy booster codes or buy the actual real life card. And I think there's some places, I'm not saying which site it is, you can actually buy the virtual card. And yeah, I don't endorse those things, but definitely your budget. You have to estimate how much you're willing to spend for the deck that you want to play. And then of course travel. If you're playing in real life, you got to estimate how much are you willing to travel, how far you're willing to travel, and how much time you're going to be willing to travel. Speaking of time, you have to estimate how much time you have per day or per week per se, in terms of how much you want to play the game and get better at the game, and how much you want to practice and really build your skills. And so budgeting and really estimating this stuff won't come too easy, especially depending on where you are in life. If you are still in high school, junior high, middle school, or in college, or all walks of life, we all have the same amount of time in a day, and you gotta estimate how much time you're willing to spend and become a better Pokemon TCG player. Of course, here we have the Pokemon.com. This was very helpful if you are looking to play in real life. You can see here in the event locator, you can select the product type, which is trading card game, and you can sort it by distance or event date. I usually sort it by event date. And then you got the different event types. You have leagues, tournaments, and premier events. And you just kind of plug in your address, and you can look up some of the closer or even further events that are around your area, and go ahead and see what you can do. Right, you're willing to travel, spend some time, spend a whole weekend. I know some of these tournaments, these bigger tournaments, they take a whole day, 2-day weekend. The Worlds is like 3 days, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it is tiring. It can do that for you, and also how much you're willing to spend your deck as well, right? So a lot of these things, a lot of questions you got to ask yourself in terms of estimating, and so keep those things in mind. So next is examine, and this is not so much examining folks around you, but more self-examination. You got to see which strategies that fit you best. What do you like to play? And so we have power decks, we have fast decks, we have aggressive milling decks, we have passive milling decks like stall decks, and then lock decks, right? Power decks, like Primal Groudon, just decks that you just kind of stack on a lot of energies and just hit for one-hit knockouts and kill everything or destroy everything in your sight. We have fast decks that are just high in efficiency, easy to just slap down, throw, power up quick and fast. That's redundant, but aggressive milling decks, I think of in the expanded format like Durant, or in the standard format like Bunnelby. Like passive milling decks, of course, we saw some success with that with Whale Lord. That's we don't see that too much, but Whale Lord EX definitely had his day in the US Nationals in 2015. But lock decks are pretty common. We've seen those ever since who knows. So if lock decks are your style, your type, it's something you want to focus on, then go ahead and do that. So a lot of different strategies. Of course, there's more than just these 5 here. There's plenty more ways to win. Really, there's only a couple ways to win, but I mean, the styles of winning, that's what counts. The style of winning. So gotta mold your deck to match your main strategy, right? So that means you like to play with lock decks. Well, pick Pokemon that lock, Seismitoad, things like that, right? So continue to mold your deck, build your deck so that it will match your main strategy. How fast can you set up your main strategy? And so these are things you want to examine about yourself, and examine, what kind of personality you are, characteristics, and things like that. And definitely that would come out and reflect the kind of deck that you'll have. I think so. So that's my personal opinion. But again, I try a variety of different decks. Sometimes, I just don't like certain decks over other ones. So, but anyways, that's it to examine. And so let's take a look. Also, the question of asking if you're okay with auto losses, right? So you gotta ask yourself and examine yourself. Certain situations you may end up just losing to certain cards, and if you're not okay with that, what are you gonna do to avoid those auto losses, right? So those are good questions to examine and ask yourself. And so now we have the experiment. And this one's kind of a go figure thing. All you need to do is test your deck, right? Test your deck on Pokemon TCG Online against the CPU. Of course, those are really good. It's quick and easy. It's a CPU, so they're, simple, straightforward, not too competitive. So it really helps you to just really see how your deck flows and not have any consequences. Of course, you can always play against a friend in real life or online, and a friend indeed always gives good advice, or could be bad advice too, but their criticism is usually pretty good. Play against a friend, and I think that would be pretty helpful. Of course, you can always go in a ranked match, and there'll be more intensity, I guess. There'll be more intensity there since it's ranked, and you don't know who you're playing against. But the Pokemon TCG community usually is pretty friendly, and so if you want to ask them how your deck is doing, what do they think of your deck, they can always give you some feedback too. And focus your matches on decks against that you're weak against, right? So, for example, if you're playing a grass deck, why don't you pick up a fight against a fire deck and see how you do, see how you manage, right? So those are good things and to really focus on. And of course, playing against a friend on Pokemon TCG Online, if they're online with you, it's easier to do that than just kind of going on a ranked match, or you playing against the CPU. It's kind of like, you're just kind of going in a random match, and maybe you're not really focusing on matches that you're weak against, and you're just kind of playing against matches that you have a good advantage against, and then you end up not really testing to the fullest of capabilities. So playing against a friend is really nice in this way. That way you can just tell your friend, hey, play Seismitoad. I need to play against Seismitoad, and they'll help you out, right? So we have evaluate here. Definitely number one here is comfort. Got to evaluate yourself after everything is said and done. After you're able to budget time and practice, and budget your deck, building your deck, and you continue to educate yourself, learning the game, and so last thing here is evaluation, right? After everything's said and done, you've gone through a tournament, you play tested it multiple times. How comfortable? That's the question. How comfortable and how confident are you handling this deck, piloting this deck to victory? How comfortable are you? Right, so it's more of a personal question, more feeling. It's not really a logical question per se, but it's a question of, is this something that you like? Is this something that you're comfortable with? And then of course we have consistency. So this is a good question to ask yourself: is your deck consistent? How fast is it in terms of setting up the way you want it to set up, getting the cards that you need to get? How fast and how consistent is it? Does it take 4 or 5 turns to really set up your strategy, or can you get it done within turn 2 or 3, or even turn 1? And so consistency is very key. Right? Drawing the cards you need and things like that. I definitely would recommend evaluating the consistency of the deck. Finally, we have coherence. And so coherence is pretty straightforward, right? So, for example, if you're playing a fairy deck, it would be very coherent if you're playing Fairy Garden, and perhaps even play Xerneas. Or maybe not, you could go get away with playing Togekiss or something like that. But so coherence is pretty essential, and the thing is that you want everything to mesh, right? Even if they're not the same type, what matters is, do they complement each other, right? And that's also another C word. That's kind of funny. So yeah, all 3 of these, your evaluation, they all start with the letter C. So, I think this is it for the video. I think, these 5 E's, hopefully they help you out a little bit. I do have a list of things that I want to talk about in the next video for a preview. And so the preview of the next video is going to be 3 components of deck building, which is pretty easy. It's going to be Pokemon, trainers, and energies. Go figure, right? Because those are the only 3 components in a deck, really. And so in the next video, we're going to talk about Pokemon, and there's different kinds of Pokemon. Of course, there's your main attacker, there's a backup attacker, and there's your supporting Pokemon. So we're going to discuss about those things and what to choose, what not to choose, and things like that in the next video. Of course, we'll be talking about trainers as well. There's different kinds of trainers: there's supporters, items, and stadiums. And then lastly, there's energies, which there are special energies and basic energies. So we'll be discussing the 3 components of deck building in the next episode. And yeah, that's it for the video. If you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks so much for subscribing and being a part of this journey. And yeah, if you guys, if this video helped you, or maybe this high-level overview was kind of silly and didn't really make much sense, or this is pretty meaningless and pointless, let me know in the comments below. I'll see to it that, yeah, maybe there's some things I can change or something like that. And yeah, so your comments are appreciated. Let's keep the comment section nice and friendly between everyone. So that's it for the video. You guys take care. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.